Okay, so this is our fourth asynchronous video. So let's start off by looking at this sentence here, kind of a long one. Critics of the healthcare plan pointed to its two dissonant goals: cost containment, which controls spending, and universal coverage, which increases spending. All right, so first of all, I don't see anything that's possessive. So I think critics is just meant to be plural here, right? Again, no apostrophe to show possession if you don't need it, obviously. Critics of the healthcare plan. Now, you might say, do I capitalize this? Well, I think they're just talking about a generic healthcare plan, so it's not a specific one. So I think it's okay not to capitalize it. But do we really need a comma here? Critics of the healthcare plan, that's the subject, and then we have the verb pointed to. So there's no need to put a comma between those two, typically, right? It's, again, it's counterintuitive, but it's, when it's possessive, does not have an apostrophe, because pronouns, when they're possessive, do not have apostrophes, right? So dissonant, meaning two different things. Goals, we haven't talked about the colon much, but you want to make sure if you have a colon that it's a complete sentence before the colon. Critics of the healthcare plan pointed to its two dissonant goals. Now we would expect this is like the equal sign saying, okay, here are going to be the two goals. Cost containment, which controls spending, and universal coverage, which increases spending. That's nice and parallel, isn't it? Because we know we're talking about cost containment, universal coverage, and they added a little bit of details in a parenthetical phrase there, which controls spending and which increases spending. So I think that's it. Looking at our words here, dissonant, clashing or discordant, incompatible or disagreeing. So we're talking about dissonant ideas here as opposed to dissonant sounds, but it's the same idea, things that clash, as opposed to things that are harmonious, let's say. And then resonant is a different word, but it's the same idea, echoing sound or richness and variety in the quality of sound. So this would obviously be the positive side of dissonance, would be resonant. Both of those relate to sound, but they can be used in forms that don't relate to sound. All right, so we got rid of the apostrophe. We got rid of the apostrophe here too. We should know why we did those two things. Here's our word. We also got rid of unnecessary comma here. And again, the part after the colon all makes sense. It's parallel because we're talking about two things, right? All right, some words from the past. We're looking for a noun that would identify, one, a person who gives money to benefit humanity, and then another noun, a person who dislikes humankind. So these are obviously opposites, but they relate to people who benefit humanity versus dislike humanity. So you think about somebody like maybe a Bill Gates who gives money. Filio means love. Philanthropist is the word. And then misanthrope would be a person who dislikes. So anthrop has that root that has to do with like anthropology, the study of mankind or humankind, and then mis is against. So somebody who dislikes humankind. All right, I wanted to do a little review. Last time we talked about parallel dependent clauses, adjective clauses, adverb clauses. Let's say I said to you, I want you to write the opening of a sentence, and I want you to have parallel dependent clauses. Well, in this case, look at this sentence. After he ate a big bowl of Raisin Bran, after he clipped his toenails, and after he brushed his teeth vigorously for approximately 10 minutes, Doug realized he was very late for school. So notice how this starts with these clauses after. That would be an after also, wouldn't it? Because we have the repetition of the after at the beginning. After is a subordinated conjunction. And notice we have subject verb. We have subject verb. We have subject verb. So this is all nicely parallel, gives us details about what he's done before he realized he was late for school. So we have three dependent clauses. Because they start with after, these would be adverb clauses. And then we get finally to our subject of our sentence, which is Doug, and the main verb, he realized. Now, here's an example of, we have a clause at the end of this, which is actually an adjective clause, but you may not think it is, but Notice we have a kind of implied that. Doug realized that he was very late for school. Sometimes we can leave that out, and I think in this case we can, but it wouldn't be wrong to put it in there. But again, if you did, notice either way we're ending this sentence with a adjective clause that tells us more about Doug. All right, I think that is it for that sentence. Again, just reviewing clauses. Oh, another thing is this would be your classic periodic sentence because you get all this information at the very beginning and it doesn't finish until the very end. That's where we have the main clause. So that's called a periodic sentence versus a cumulative sentence. All right, this should be a review, but if it's not, that's okay. So we have these things called coordinated conjunctions, and we use them a lot in all kinds of writing, but we especially use them to form compound sentences. So we have two sentences, two independent clauses. We want to join those two sentences. We use a comma and one of these fanboys. For, and, nor, but, or, yet. So they're either 2 letters long or 3 letters long. So you should be able to memorize these. So here's an example. Bill loves to bowl, but he hates to play ping pong. Notice we have 2 independent clauses that contrast with each other, and we're using the but to show that with the comma. The rain poured all night, and in the morning, it stopped. Again, 2 independent clauses. We've connected these with an and. So looking at some example sentences here. Let's see if these are compound sentences. Again, to be a compound sentence, we need 2 independent clauses. We don't necessarily need a coordinated conjunction, but we have to have 2 independent clauses that are connected. So Bill likes to run, but not to dance. Notice we have a conjunction here, and the reason we don't have a comma is because what follows the but is not a complete sentence, not to dance. Bill likes to run, but he does not like to dance. That would be an independent clause, but in this case, it's not. So it's not a compound sentence. Mary sings love songs, and she writes angry rants in her spare time. So Mary sings love songs. That's one independent clause. She writes angry rants in her spare time. Another clause connected by and. This would be a compound sentence. You could go out to dinner, or you can stay home and eat with us. Again, you can go out to dinner, option 1, complete thought, or, comma, you can stay home and eat with us. Notice we have 3 independent clauses in this one, actually 2 independent clauses, but then we have this verb clause at the end, and eat with us, because there's no subject there. It's not an independent clause. All right, this next one, he was poor and hungry, yet not unhappy. Now this one we have a coordinated conjunction yet. We have a comma, but we don't have an independent clause. And probably the reason they put a comma there is sometimes you put a comma in there to show the contrast. It's probably be okay to not have it, but the key is this is not compound because not unhappy is not a complete thought, is it? He was poor and hungry, yet he was not unhappy. That would be an independent clause. And then finally, the test is hard, so read the book carefully. Notice that first one is an independent clause, the test is hard. The second one is written as a command. Read the book carefully. That's also called the imperative voice. It might look like there's no subject, but there is. It's implied, right? The test is hard, so you should read the book. But it's still a independent clause because those 2 clauses could stand by themselves, but we've connected them with the word so. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. If you're not sure about the differentiation between compound and complex, again, we're just trying to give you options for sentence variety. And again, we know that good writing is about sentence variety. It's not about identifying compound sentences or complex sentences, but the more you understand that terminology, maybe the more flexibility you'll have with your sentences and your variety of sentences. All right, and the last thing is you want to check out the Thinker's Almanac for February 7th through 20th, and then take the asynchronous quiz on this video along with the word days. And that is our 4th asynchronous video.